Welcome to the WTF podcast. My name is Molly Smith, and I am on a mission to equip 1 million people with the tools to recognize when they're in the funk and, more importantly, how to pivot out of it. By tuning in today, you are joining me on this mission, and I am so glad you're here. I came across today's guest on social media and was right away magnetized by her boldness and the way she tells it like it is. Christy Holt is an international best-selling author, a podcast host, and a no bullshit mentor. She helps women stop losing themselves and start building the happiness and relationships that they really want, guiding them both with compassion and honesty so that they can break through the old patterns and come back to who they truly are. And of course, I'm going to tell you, we all know that this kind of clarity and boldness does not appear out of nowhere. So today we are going to talk about the funk that helped shape the powerful work that Christy is doing now. Christy, welcome to the WTF podcast.
Amazing. And thank you so much for having me. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited to dive into this conversation and share a little bit about my story and
Yeah.
knowing that people will relate to
Yes.
probably some or many parts of it. And hopefully this will be a slight pathway for them.
Love it. Okay, before we dive into the funk, I always want to hear what is exciting and energizing you right now in your life,
Well,
business, anywhere.
like right now, it is travel because I am I'm overcome by wanderlust. I think as I'm approaching, I'm 46. I feel like I'm approaching midlife. I'm saying approaching because I plan to live to be 100. I'm getting to that point where I feel like I got to start doing the things. Like my list is so
Yes.
long and the years are so short, and so I need to start doing that. And so,
Yeah.
uh, off to Costa Rica in a couple of months, and also planning
Yes.
a group trip to hike the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu next September. So if anybody wants information about that, I have some space still. I've just started promoting it. So freaking excited to go and see one of the new seven wonders of the world.
Oh my
And
gosh.
just what a bucket list experience. So super excited.
That is amazing. And I have seen that on your socials too. And I'm like, ooh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Take us back to a time where you were in the funk, maybe something that really either changed the trajectory of your life, but we want to go back to what that funk looked like. So take us back to a
Yeah.
particular time for you.
Okay. Well, I was that woman, maybe you are this woman or were this woman, if you're listening, who would sit across from her husband at the time and think, is this it? Right? Is this it? Like it
Yeah.
wasn't connective, it wasn't fun, it wasn't life-giving, it just was.
Yeah.
And I sat there wondering, is this it? Like here I'm, maintaining the perfect home as much as I could. I'm a perfectionist in some ways, but house cleaning, not so much. But maintaining this sort of like, perfect
Wow.
home with three young boys at the time, trying to excel in what I was doing, which was actually health and fitness and nutrition coaching back at that time. Monitoring everyone's schedule, keeping everything going, getting kids to school and doctors and all of these things, all of these, the emotional load that the mother typically carries in a family. And at the end of the day, I would fall into bed and I would just be exhausted. I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel happy. Even though I'm a pretty happy person, I mean, I do call myself the happiness hussy. And so it's not like I lost that happiness entirely, but I was like,
Yeah.
it just felt like overshadowed
Mm.
by the lack of connection. And I'll tell you what, I woke up in the next morning. So I'll go to bed and I'm just feeling kind of empty. I'd wake up in the next
Yeah.
morning feeling overwhelmed as fuck
Yeah.
and anxious. Like before I
Yeah.
was even like my eyes weren't even open. I was just like I'd feel like that. Oh, like my stomach, my heart, my everything just was like, what's going
Before your
on? And
before your eyes even popped open.
like I woke up with the weight of the world like
Mm.
crushing me in my bed.
Yeah.
And I kept going because obviously as a mother you keep going and you keep trying
You
and you
have
do
to.
your best
Yeah.
until one day something happened and it doesn't matter the details of what happened, but it caused me to realize like holy shit, how did I get here in the
Yeah.
relationship? It was basically like a yelling match in front of the kids, and I won't get into details, but I was like the language
Yeah.
was unacceptable.
Sure.
And I don't know why it took for me to get to that point to realize like wait a minute, how many things have I sort of like allowed or tolerated or accepted or justified or
Yeah.
made excuses for that got us to this place where now this
Yeah.
is happening to me. I often tell it like this. You know how you're driving home sometimes and your brain's all over the place and you get home, but you don't remember the drive. That was how
100%.
I felt in that moment. I was
Yes.
like, how the fuck did
Yes.
I get here?
Yeah.
Like, what have I allowed and tolerated that have opened up the space for this to be happening? And in that moment, I realized, well, probably not right in that moment. As I was processing that moment and trying to figure out what am I going to do from here, I came
Yeah.
to this realization like, holy shit, I'm the common denominator in all of my problems. Like, if I look around and I see them all, I'm
Oh,
like, oh dear God, ooh, I'm in it. I'm in all of them.
yeah.
And that can be a slippery slope.
It can.
Thankfully, I had support and I was well aware of the fact that guilt and shame do not serve us in a productive way.
Mhm.
And so I did not go down that slippery slope of beating myself up or making myself wrong or bad for having gotten in this place, which left me with the space to say, hey, I'm also the common solution. How do I move forward from here? How do I reclaim this? Part of this was realizing that while I was staying in this idealistic vision of protecting my children from a broken home or whatever, blah blah blah, was actually keeping them stuck in an
Absolutely.
unhappy situation, a toxic situation, probably by
Yeah.
most and all accounts of it, because it wasn't healthier for me. I was people pleasing and bending over backwards and overgiving and trying to do everything to make
Yeah.
it work, but I wasn't taking care of me. I was taking care of everyone else. And I was left wondering, well, who the fuck was I even at
Yeah.
that point?
Pouring out of an empty cup or
Yeah.
serving out of an
And
empty cup. And it's so fascinating because I think as moms, we tend to do that, or we serve out of the cup, and there's nothing left for us. But here's something I've actually learned. I want to know if you agree. I think it's Lisa Nichols who says that I do my work. I do, whether it's with the family or my job or vocation, soul aligned purpose. I operate from the overflow. What's in the
hmm
cup is for me.
yeah,
That's the self-care and all of that. And I've got to be operating out of the overflow because you and I both know that we can't do the work that we're here to do if we aren't filling our cup and making sure that we're grounded and have what we need in order to show up well.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can if you're over giving and you're
Yeah.
depleted and exhausted and burnt out, you are literally no good to
Yeah.
anybody in that
Yeah.
state, yourself included. And for
Absolutely.
sure, that was a huge part of the shift that I made was choosing myself, right? Not
Yeah.
just giving, 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 like,
Yeah.
okay, friggin' patriarchy creates this expectations, the good girl persona that we're all
Yes.
expected to take on, where
Yeah.
we're the
Yeah.
nurturers, right?
Yeah.
Men are
Yeah.
supposed to just go out and do their thing and have no emotions, and we're supposed to be over here and handle the emotional things and
All of
also
it.
all like the caretaking, right? And
Yes.
so that
Yes.
really started to feel like it was boxing me in
Yeah.
to the point where I didn't know who I was. And so part of that reclamation was deciding, realizing ultimately for my children first, because to be honest, I probably would have stayed forever if it was just martyring me. But
Mm,
the realization that shifted things was realizing what I was teaching them was
mm.
not what I wanted to be teaching them, right?
Right.
By staying in this unhealthy situation for me. And it, even if you're not in, an abusive relationship of any kind, and also I'll say emotional and verbal abuse are very gray area. So a lot of people justify that and it's not a big deal. And that's how it was and how it is. And it's abuse. But I will
Yes.
say, until I realized, like, by staying in this, I'm teaching my kids to sacrifice and martyr their own happiness, to sacrifice and martyr their own dreams, their own
Yeah.
desires, who they are as an individual. And I realized that the worst possible outcome of all of that, here I'm trying to keep protecting them. The worst
Yeah.
possible outcome is that they grow up and they think that is what a relationship should look like.
That's right.
That is what laid me right on the fucking bathroom floor.
Ooh, girl.
That realization of like,
Yes.
I can't. And worst of all, what if they could grow up and be either side of this story? What if they grow up and become verbally abusive to their future partners? And I was like, I'm not
Mm.
having it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I have a responsibility as
Yeah.
someone who has three young men to
Yes.
to help guide them in a way that is productive to the future of humanity. And plus, I want them
Abs-
to be happy. And
Absolutely.
nobody's happy in those kinds of situations. That's why it's so
Yeah.
unhappy and so miserable and so toxic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So that sounds like that was kind of the pivotal moment. So when you realized, okay, I'm the problem, but I'm also the solution, and I don't want to continue living like this and having this example for my
Yeah.
boys.
Worst example.
What exactly? What was the first thing that you did?
Oh gosh, I often do try to think back to this. I'm like, what was the first thing I did?
Yeah.
I did a lot of things sort of at once.
Okay.
I
Tell
would
me.
say that like if I reflect, I will answer your question with one thing. I don't know if it was that one specific thing because there's
Okay.
a lot of moving parts in a situation.
Sure.
But I
Absolutely.
think the biggest, umbrella thing that I did was to start looking inside and starting to get to know who I am. So it
Oh.
was a process of self-discovery and increased awareness. What am I contributing to this? Right. And it did start with that first question. How did we get here? What did I
Yeah.
allow and tolerate to get here? That was probably like kicking off this sort of journey of self-discovery. Like, who am
Yeah.
I? What is it that I'm seeking? What am I creating? What am I putting out into the world? Because all of
Yeah.
those things matter far more than I realized at the time. I realize it now because I'm like, oh dang.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
ask, did you do this process yourself? Did you engage with somebody, have a coach or a therapist or somebody help you navigate this self-awareness journey?
I first of all, I am an extremely personally led self-learner. So I
Love it.
probably read like 30
Oh,
books, in the time
yeah.
frame there about that to
Yeah.
help me get going. And
For
yes,
sure.
of course, I had a therapist. She
Yeah.
was instrumental. She had initially been meant to be our couples therapist, but when he didn't show up one day,
There you
everything
go.
shifted. And so she
Yeah.
became my therapist, and we did work through some stuff and figure out, honestly, the most powerful thing I did with her was to figure out what it was that I really wanted.
Yes.
Because a lot of us, at that point, I'd been living in a bit of a fantasy world of a dream world where I thought I
Yeah.
could just bloop, put this person into it and it would all work out. But that's not how it works because you can't
No.
change anybody but yourself. And
That's
so
right.
I realized in working with her that I needed to get more clear about what I really wanted. Not not that, right? That's not clear, right? Like the
Right.
more you think about what you don't want, the closer you actually stay to that thing and thinking
Right.
about what you don't want. So she
Yeah.
helps me to flip that into a list of not just like, a lot of people will be like, well, I want to, someone who can buy me a house and have 2.5 kids and a dog and a cat and whatever.
Yeah.
Had
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
to do with any of that. It
Yeah.
was about how I wanted to experience
Mhm.
relationship with another human
Yes.
being,
Yes.
how I wanted to laugh with them, how I wanted to have deep, meaningful conversations, how I wanted someone who we couldn't keep our hands off of each other. Like those
Yeah.
kinds of things where I felt like safe to speak honestly and truthfully and not have to filter myself or,
Yeah.
walk on eggshells or
Yeah.
manage his mood or any of those kinds of things. I
Yeah.
just wanted to be free to be me. And oh my God, I did find that. So yay, little thing, to bring us a positive.
Yeah.
Getting clarity really helped me to find it. If you
Yeah.
don't have clarity, that shit can slap you in the face and you might not recognize it because
Yeah.
you're so familiar with what you've experienced until
The
now.
dysfunction, the dysfunction,
It's
the
normal, right?
narcissism, whatever it is. Yes.
It can
Yeah.
literally feel safe only because it's familiar, not because it's good. And so, definitely working with someone to help you get that clarity,
Yeah.
to maybe check out where your beliefs might be holding you back, or those past experiences might be limiting you from having what you
Yeah.
truly deserve because you're worthy of the most incredible love, like the one that makes you feel so safe and also
Yes.
butterflies at the same time. Like, those are not
Yes.
things that have to be mutually exclusive. And
Right.
so I did work with a therapist. That was the most amazing thing there. I also, during that time, hired a business coach because, there was no time like, your marital falling apart situation to try and build a business or whatnot. It
Right.
was very fortunate at the time
Yeah.
that she had previously, before kind of delving into business coaching, had been a family and divorce therapist.
Your business
So
coach?
my business coach that I hired strongly focused on a foundation of self-love, which of course has shaped a lot of where I go today. And I speak about relationships, speak about creating happiness, I speak about like personal power and
Yes.
sovereignty and reclamation and all these things. And I talk
Yeah.
about relationship built on that foundation. Because
Yes.
you can't have that relationship that you're truly worthy of when you don't think you're worthy of it, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that foundation of self-worth and self-love and, really truly accepting and unconditionally loving yourself,
Yes.
creates this space
Yes.
for the experiences relationally that I think that
Yes.
most people would say that they would desire.
Yes. Okay, so your business coach has a background in like family and marriage counseling or therapy, and you were also going through therapy on this self-discovery journey.
Right? Like you can't make this stuff up
Yeah.
because that was her background, but she had transitioned out of that to go into business coaching.
Yeah.
And apparently, it was one of those situations. All that to say is I hired this coach for one thing that I thought I wanted and needed, and I got what I actually needed instead, which,
Yeah.
really shifted things for me. It really created this foundation and actually really modeled something that I wanted to create when I started coaching myself because I wanted to be there for the whole human to meet them where
Yes.
they're at, not blunder through a business program while their personal life is falling apart. Now, I'm not a business coach, so I will
Right.
I will be clear about that. But
Sure.
a lot of times what happens in one area of life is playing out in many areas of your life at the same time. And what is most important is you focus on the human and meeting them where they're at in that moment rather than
Yes.
trying to bulldoze them with, well, we're just going to do this thing because that's what I had planned, right?
Right.
It's really creating a safe space for exploration as
Yes.
opposed to offering a
Yes.
structured, guided system, which I do have a system. It's called the Create method, but it's
Yeah.
not linear. It's not A to Z. It's
Right.
a jumble. It's let's look at what is the most pressing right now. And eventually all of those pieces will come together and, in
Yeah.
divine timing for you because
Yes.
you are unique. You are different than everyone else. You know how I mentioned how I lost myself and I didn't know who I was? It's very hard to build a life that you want. When you don't know who you are or what it is that you really want, you just have this clear picture of like, this isn't it. But
Yes.
until you got clear, you just sort of stay stuck in this isn't it. And
Yeah.
so that really shifted things for me. And that helped me, to take that mess that I was in. And
Yeah.
now I can use that as a message, right? This is when I'm sharing my story. And so I guess in a way, there, tiny business coaching tip, that you too can take your story and turn that mess. I mean, it's a bit of a mess, right?
Yeah.
And turn it into the message. The mess is still in there. You're not erasing
Yeah.
that. It's part of who you are. It's part of what shaped you
Yeah.
and helped you learn and get the wisdom you have. And so then you can use that to
Love that.
better yourself, better other people around you, and change the world.
Yes. You know, it's fascinating because I know a little bit about what you do. And so this truly is like this experience truly is the foundation for what you have created. And, in a previous
Yeah.
coaching business that I was a part of, a phrase that was something that was widely used was that your place of pain is also or can be your place of reign, as like you are reigning, like you have authority in
Uh-huh.
this space because you have walked through the fire, you have walked through the funk, and you are on the other side of it, and you're here to bring people
Love that.
along. So tell me,
Yeah.
fast forward to today. So like we were kind of in the pit of the funk, right? What does life look like today? Do you have a relationship where you can have both the
Yeah.
butterflies and the safety and all of those things? Yeah.
Oh, you know I do, girl. You know I do. I have the most incredible partner that I could ever ask for now.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that we met far before I was quote unquote ready because I was not looking. And maybe that's part of the magic is that when you're not looking, you are completely devoid of any desperation and you're missing parts of you. Because here's the thing, that shift that I did in myself to discover who I am, I realized I'm already fucking whole. I don't need someone else. There's nothing missing from me that I require someone else. And so
Yes.
when you come whole and knowing who the fuck you are and what you want, then you can identify this person aligns with my vision. I
Yes.
think that we can make something happen here. And when you're clear about what that's going to feel like, it's very easy to say this is it or this is
Yes.
not it. And I went on some dates where I was like, this is definitely not it. But I met him literally the weekend that my house with my ex had sold. Like it was just the strangest, most divine timing. Like I literally that Friday, I my our house had sold after a long time of being sort of stuck in this like groundhog day of trying to keep a house clean with small children to sell. Finally, it
Yep.
had sold. I felt like this huge weight had been lifted. Not only that, but we were going to progress towards actually separating, not attempting to live in the same house whilst
Yeah. Yeah.
not liking each other
Yeah.
and and trying to avoid each other in the same house where you can't feel like you're in your own home. But that weekend I ran a marathon. It was my third marathon and my last marathon. I'm pretty certain I'm not going to do anymore. And that is where I met my current partner while running a marathon. For the runners out there, he was the pacer. For my goal time of 4 hours, 15 minutes, I chased him for 4 hours and 10 minutes. And then I sprinted to the finish line, crushed my goal. He saved me in that race mentally. Anybody who's run a race will know that like the wheels start falling off. And by the wheels, I mean like everything starts hurting and your brain starts screaming, what are you doing? At about 3/4 of the way through.
Yep.
Okay. That final 10K or about the last hour, if you're about the same pace as I am, is about sheer torture. And so while everything was falling apart, I was like, I can do this. It's only one more hour, which I know sounds absurd if you're not a runner. No, sounds absurd anyway. Anyhow, I was like, I just have this 1 hour left, but everything is hurting. My mind is just, it's going a mile, 1,000 miles a minute. And so I just chatted him up. Like we just had a conversation. I wasn't looking for something. I had no intentions aside from honestly getting through this, this final hour unscathed mentally. And from there, I was just like, oh, he's a really nice guy. And like, we connected on Instagram because he obviously helped me crush my goal. And so I'm just like so grateful.
Oh,
We connected on Instagram, we started chatting. I'm like, girl, I'll tell you what, after coming out of what I came out of, I was looking for anything that didn't align. Like I was not having it. I was not tolerant. I was like, I don't know what I did last time to get to that place, but I'm not doing it again. I refuse. And I would rather be alone forever and die like a lonely old cat lady than be unhappy and that lonely in a relationship.
Yeah.
So I don't want it. I was like, I told him, like, I don't even want a relationship right now. But we just kind of, I don't know, there was something undeniable. Like, honestly, the first time we held hands, I just about melted into a puddle. And I was like, oh, okay. I've not felt like that ever before. Like, it was just a whole nother level. And so now we've been together for over 7 years. Between us, we have 4 teenage boys. It's a lot. It's exciting. We are both very adventurous. We're excited to go to Peru. We love hiking, camping. We got a motorhome last year so we could travel around. I'm in Alberta, so we love to go to the Rocky Mountains and spend time there. Literally it's the exact picture I dreamed of, that list that I still have in my phone that I came up with my therapist to say, how am I going to feel? And like, we haven't even had a fight. We had like one miscommunication.
Right.
That's 7 years. So I'm going to tell you, after literally every day being a miscommunication in my previous relationship, it's possible for you to have something else. You are worthy of having something else. The work isn't on trying to change them or waiting for them to change. And I know that can be really hard for people to hear because, well, that would be way easier. I would much rather the people who need to do the work on themselves did, but I can't control them.
Yeah.
The person you can control is you. And so if you decide what you want and you get clear about it, you start taking action towards it, everything will fall into place.
Yes. I love that. Okay, so just breaking it down for our listeners, the thing that Christy did to pivot out of the funk was to look in the mirror and build some self-awareness.
Yeah.
And quite honestly,
self-acceptance, right? Like just allowing myself to be really me instead of like pretending all the time.
Yes.
Taking off the masks.
That's so important because, as I've learned through the various funks that I have been in, and I mean, I am in a funk every other day. There's always something, right? We always land in the funk. But the pivoting out, like universally, has always involved looking in the mirror and like, okay, what do I need to learn? What do I need to see? Where do I need to grow? How can I see this as for me, not to me? And having that mentality. So, okay.
And creating some space, right? Because I think what happens when we get into funks, and I will say, like, people ask me, like, listen, I got 4 teenage boys. Like, shit goes down all the time, okay? And co-parenting, okay?
Yeah.
Potential for a daily funk, probably. But how do I not land in there and stay in there? Is actually what I wrote my first book about, and I call it The Spiral Stopper. The book is called Unstuck for Women, but it's tool. It's really just to create space so that you're not overwhelmed by all the thinking and the feeling and the thought feelings and the stories and the narratives. They're based on the past. They prevent you from seeing clearly what your options are here and now. And so, an example of a spiral stopper might be vagal toning. It might be EFT tapping. It might be going for a walk. It could be Ho'oponopono. Like there's literally so many things you can arm your, spiral stopper
Yes.
toolbox. You can just stack it full. And
Yes.
not all the things apply in all scenarios. So, having a few in the toolbox is a great idea. Just so you have something you can do if you're, I don't know, somehow triggered while you're in the grocery store lineup, you can just take 5 deep breaths, take
Yes.
10 deep breaths, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
But get clear away the funk, all that muck, all that shit
Yes.
that's around you that's preventing you from seeing clearly, because it is that same stuff that's preventing you from being happy. Because happiness is actually your intended state of being. It's your natural state of being. That's how you are. You are love. You are happiness. You are
Default
that.
factory, our default factory setting.
Yes. Yes. And then
Yeah.
we just get all this shit. And then we forget. We humans, we're so
Yes.
cute like that. We forget a lot. So we get wrapped into the illusion that there's something wrong with us based on our past experiences and all of that. So
Right.
clear it
love
away.
that. I love that. Okay, so you help women go through this journey of self-discovery and figuring out what it is that they want out of relationships. And that's based on your experience and all of the work that you've done, right?
Yeah, I love to say that I help women, I guide women in loving themselves back
Yes.
to life, because it is about your relationship, but ultimately it's about you, because you're the only person you can change. So
That's exactly
really
right.
focusing on building those foundations will help you. I can't promise that your relationship will be saved by this work, because I don't know if it's worth saving. Mine wasn't, right?
Right.
But I can promise you that you will feel the love that you have been longing for through this work, because it's not about that other person. It's about you.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's mic drop moment. Christy, thank you so much for sharing your story, your wisdom, and just a very practical way to pivot out of the funk, whether it's in your relationship or anything. That building that self-awareness muscle is absolutely critical and will help you pretty much in any funk. So thank you so much for being here. And guys, if you're hearing this episode and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my friend so-and-so needs to hear this, please share it and help me reach the 1,000,000 people that I'm trying to reach with the tools to recognize when they're in the funk and, more importantly, pivoting out of it. We'll see you next time.